Hello and welcome to this video. First off, I want to take the time to say thank you for clicking on this video to begin with, and I hope that your day or night is going well, and welcome to a video about Warframe 1999. Now, Warframe 1999 is a sizable update that has recently hit Warframe that I want to talk about. Now, before I get into the video, I do want to say that I have a decent amount of time in Warframe, but I don't think I would consider myself a full-on veteran, as I started playing the game roughly 7 to 8 years ago, and have been playing off and on ever since, clocking in roughly 600 hours at the time of this recording. Now, to a Warframe player, 600 hours really isn't that much time. However, the reason I am telling you this is to say that this video is about my opinion on 1999, and how I personally feel about it. And I'm unsure of the community's general feeling towards the game, or how a veteran player might feel towards it, or anywhere in between. I am unsure. And as I don't indulge in the community, outside of the 2 seconds that I see Region chat, and I immediately feel regret in my heart, I don't really indulge in forums or anything like that, in videos, or just a general sense of indulging in the community. So I am unsure of how people, veterans or new players, feel about the 1999 update and the general feeling towards the update. So this is all to say that I don't know. Perhaps people really love the update, or perhaps people really hate it. I personally like it, so if people hate it, then I'm sorry, I guess, I don't know. But to actually get into how I feel about it, I think it's neat. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I'll go into detail about what I like about it. Now, before I start off, I will be using the update highlight as a sort of checklist to talk about the update in general and what I like or perhaps don't like. And the first thing on the checklist is the hex. So let us begin and start off by talking about the hex. Now, the hex are one of the main appeals, if not the main appeal, when it comes to the general update of 1999, and for the most part, I do like them. I completely understand why someone would find the hex annoying, whether it be their dialogue, personality, or the way that they're introduced. I do think I understand why people would not really care for them, but for the most part, I do like them. At first, I did think the whole chat message thing was a bit weird, and I do still think it kind of is, but it's grown on me as I've come to understand that it's a pretty good way to learn more about the characters, and an understandable way, lore-wise, to learn more about the characters, and I think it works overall. When it comes to the writing of each character individually, I think what the writers were likely going for when it comes to characterization and personality traits and just general archetypes, I think it works. I like them. They're not my favorite characters ever in fiction, but I like them enough that I wanted to learn more about them through said chat message things, and I liked them enough that I didn't hate them. And I feel like as far as character depth and general characterization, I think it works. When it comes to perhaps each individual character or general group, their depth and the detail of who they are and what they think, I think they handled that fairly well. Like, for example, Arthur feeling guilt when it comes to the fact that he's part of the reason, if not the main reason, that the Hex are stuck in Hulvania doing what they are. Or when citizens of Hulvania began showing up at the mall because they began to trust the Hex and their ability to keep them safe, the Hex began to question their ability to keep those people safe, feeling a sense of inadequacy when it came to keeping those civilians that were hanging around them safe. And how specifically each character perceives the Drifter as time goes on, I think the writing works fairly well with what they were going for. And it's written well enough that I'm genuinely curious to see where the story and the lore goes from here. See what happens with the Hex, the Drifter, and perhaps even what happens in the present with the Operator, Lotus, and all of that. I'm genuinely curious, and I really think that the writing works here. I don't think it's the best, but I think it works well enough that I have nothing against it. But before I keep going, I will say that I have not reached the max standing when it comes to the ranks in Hex. So there is likely a lot of dialogue that I'm missing, there is a lot of conversations that I have yet to see, and I have yet to romance any characters, nor do I really plan to. And you may be asking why, and that is because my heart has already been taken by the need for speed. That's so bad. What? Yeah, I just wanted to use that as an excuse to make an edit. I'll be completely honest. I just simply don't like romancing characters in games, as it tends to make me uncomfortable for personal reasons. And the only times I have ever romanced characters in games has been by accident, and no, I will not elaborate how I managed to romance characters in a game twice on accident. But to finish off this section, I like the Hex, and I like the lore that follows, and I'm genuinely curious to see what happens in future updates when it comes to the Hex. But our next thing on the list is Hulvania. Honestly, I don't think there's that much for me to say about Hulvania. As far as general design and looks go, I think they went for a certain design and I think they nailed it. And when it comes to gameplay as far as tile sets go, I think Hulvania is one of the better ones. When it comes to the design of the mall and the back rooms, I think they also did well with those. Granted, that is the general design of just Hulvania in general, but that is to say I like Hulvania. I like how it looks, and I like being in it for the most part. The new mission designs are actually they're alright. I wouldn't say they're game-changing as far as completely new things that I would love to see in the game from here on out, but when it comes to things like the tank assassination mission, or perhaps the new face-off mode, they were trying new things, and that in and of itself is fairly commendable. So I think they're neat. I don't think they're the best. I don't think they're, the new big thing in Warframe or anything of that nature. Just new missions for a tile set. And another new thing that they added was the bikes, and on paper they're fairly basic. Bikes, drive them, I do think that the bikes are pretty cool actually. I like them. What adds to them working is the fact that you can drive them in more places than they were originally intended. I'm not entirely sure if the bikes were supposed to be just used in Hulvania and nowhere else, but from what I can tell, due to a glitch, the bikes were being able to be used in more places than they were originally intended. And DE were actually really cool about it and decided to just keep it in the game as is, allowing people to use the bikes in more places than were originally intended, which is really cool and I think adds to the bikes actually being far more usable than they would have been otherwise if they were constrained to being solely used where they were originally meant. So I like the bikes. I think that they work for what they're going for. Bikes. You can drive them because they're cool. Now, as you can tell, I like Goss, so I personally just run around with him, but on the few occasions that I decide to bust out the bike and drive on it, I think it's fun. And the fact that the bikes also have somewhat useful abilities that actually add something to them gameplay-wise outside of just being cool, and really makes me want DE to add abilities or module changes that you can add to something like K-Drives that actually gives them abilities. Please. I personally don't think that K-Drives are that great, so please add abilities to them. As far as the new enemy types as well, I think the Skuldra and Tech Rod are cool. Now, granted, the Tech Rod is just a different take on the infestation, but I think they're okay. But when it comes to the Skuldra being a little bit different than other enemy types, I think that they work. As far as general designs go, it's nothing super notable to me personally, but as far as gameplay goes, I actually find the Skuldra a bit dangerous because they use mostly toxin-based damage. So on higher levels, they can actually be a notable threat. Or maybe that's just because I'm bad at the game. Both are equally as likely. But to wrap around back to the general design of look of Hulvania, because it's so well made, it made the standing grind for the Hex far more bearable because I actually enjoyed being in Hulvania. As when it comes to the open worlds like Cetus and Fortuna, I personally find those annoying. Not because I think they're bad, but because I think the open world grinding is far more tedious. And so personally, I really enjoy the tile set take on the standing grind for the Hex. It makes it far more bearable, and there was an extra motivation as the good ending was only obtainable for, at least I think, until you get to standing rank of 3 with the Hex. Having the motivation of wanting to get the good ending for the having the extra motivation of wanting to get the good ending for the 1999 update definitely added to it as well. I really hope that DE does new and different things when it comes to the general formula of quests outside of just one and done that they've been doing. But anyway, I also enjoy the little calendar that came with 1999, giving small buffs for whenever you're running around in Helvania, or the little free stuff that you get here or there from the calendar, like Archon Shards or Arcanes. And for veteran players, it's not really of note, or really anything special, but for me, as someone that doesn't really do Archon missions, getting free Archon Shards is definitely something I am not going to complain about. With the next parts of this little checklist for the update highlights are things that aren't super detailed to talk about individually, so I'll just be grouping them all together here. Now, to start off, I don't have any of the Gemini skins, so there isn't really much to talk about when it comes to that, but I do think that Cyto 9 overall is fun. I like the emphasis that he has on high single target damage due to his Exalted Sniper, but the fact that the Exalted Sniper can still deal with groups of enemies due to the fact that the headshots chain damage. And I also just really like the concept of Exalted Weapons. He also has decent combat adaptability due to the fact that his second ability lets him just change the element of whatever guns he's using, which I really think is cool. And I overall think that Cyto 9's playstyle and the way that you use him is fun and slightly different from at least the way that I usually play the frames that I normally play. I like Cyto 9, I think he's neat, and I do also enjoy the weapons that came with 1999 as well, like the Vesper 77. It's probably the most fun I've had with a secondary ever, and conceptually I do still love Incarnate weapons the most, but I really do like the weapons that came with 1999. And for the most part, at least stat-wise, I do think that they're decent as well. I'm not entirely sure. As for the reworks on Nyx and Trinity, I have very little to add to both of those, as I got Nyx to level 29, stopped playing her, that was roughly a year ago, and I literally don't even have Trinity. There really isn't much for me to say about those reworks. From what I can tell, they're decent reworks that added, for the most part, positive things to both frames, but I cannot say with 100% certainty, as I have yet to play either. But on a side note, I really want DE to add like a Paladin frame. I've heard people refer to Oberon as a Paladin frame. I don't know if that's actually true or not, what he's meant to be, but either way, he doesn't count. I want like a genuine Paladin frame. I want like a Space Knight, like a big great sword or like a exalted sword and shield or something like that. I think that would be very cool. I will keep going on a 30-minute tangent if I keep talking about this, and I should probably wrap up the video before I keep going. Before I completely finish the video, I do want to say a few last things. This video wasn't meant to be a detailed critique. It was meant to be an overlook and an overall feeling of how I feel about the 1999 update that came with Warframe, and hopefully was entertaining to you. Probably not, but one can hope, I suppose. But anyway, I think I'll finish off the video by saying this. Digital Extreme has had many falls and stumbles in the past. Take it from me, I certainly remember the first few months that Railjack came out. It was certainly a time to be playing the game, but it was those stumbles and mistakes that I feel like actually helped DE get better to learn from their past mistakes, an issue that I feel many developers struggle with today. And it feels like recently, with each update that they put out, they either try something new or keep the things that people already like. Now granted, again, I am not a veteran player. I cannot say with 100% certainty if the 1999 update is good, or if it's good outside of just my personal perspective. Perhaps to a veteran player, it's incredibly tedious and unenjoyable, or it has its issues, or whatever. I cannot say. But from my perspective, if Digital Extremes or DE keeps going in the direction that they're going in with the update like 1999, and takes notes from this update and keeps doing their best to improve upon this in the future with future updates, I really do feel like Warframe will be doing well for a while. And also, completely unrelated, I don't know what has happened with Digital Extreme's music team these past few years, but their music has gotten like genuinely really good. Back a few years ago, when I first started playing, it was decent. It was notable, but it wasn't great. But songs like from their Komue trailer or from just most of 1999's soundtrack is genuinely really good. I don't know why it's gotten good, but I go listen to them. Go stop watching this. Why are you still here? This video isn't even good.